chapter is to be exhaustively studied, pondered over, and at least steadily practiced until the ideas contained in that chapter have all become our own. When thus exhaustively we have studied each chapter, we will be in a position to declare honestly at the end of the chapter that that is truth. Until such a sense of satisfaction comes to us, naturally it is incumbent upon us to repeat our studies again and again. Om, om, om.
So it's a so important thing he said, that we have to try to live the truth discussed in a scriptural textbook, not just read it like a parrot, because that's what had become in India. You saw the pandits when they would do the puja, they will do like, kya bol rahe the samajh mein nahi aata, and half of them the pronunciation was all ulta sulta, and we had no clue as children what they are saying. So he's saying don't do that, but exhaustively studied, pondered over, and at least practice slightly. Then only you can say ये संकल्प वाक्य में भी जो भी बोला जा रहा है उसका मीनिंग सचमुच होगा if you do at least that much. So, and like one of the Swamis said, minimum 18 बार पढ़नी होती है भगवद गीता, शुरू से लेके आखिर तक pondered upon, तब जाके थोड़ा कुछ पता चलता है कि कृष्ण भगवान क्या बोल रहे हैं. Because there's so much information in it that we kind of forget. And to collectively think of the whole thing together, you have to really, really do it so many times. That's what the main thing is. Yeah. Okay. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyah moksha ishyami ma shuchah. Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Hari Om. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahanau Bhunaktu, Saha Viryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu, Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. So I just wanted to summarize a little bit of the, we were going to read Swamiji's commentary on verse 15, but there was, because the recording last 2 times got stopped, I'll tell you, just summarize it in case, because there are several people who just do the recording, so I didn't want them to miss. So there was a very famous verse that we did 2 weeks ago, verse 14 of Valli 3. And it said, arise, awake, having reached the great, learn, realize the Atman. Having reached the great, meaning reach the teachers. Okay. Like the sharp edge of the razor is that path, difficult to cross and hard to tread, thus say the wise. So he's talking about the spiritual path is sharp as a razor, edge of the razor. But then Tejamanaji explained that don't get scared. It's for the people who are unprepared. Because if you ekdam unprepared who's not heard anything about these things, and you go tell you are not the body or something, they will be like, what are you saying? So if you are mentally prepared and all that, and you keep doing the sadhana, then it becomes easier and easier. That's what it is. And then I was actually, the recording got cut off in the middle, where I was giving that drishtant. I like that drishtant a lot. That there was this Swami, and one man goes to him and says, you should be doing like this, giving him a list, ऐसे करना चाहिए, ऐसे स्वामी तो ऐसे होते हैं, why you are doing this? तो उसने बोला कि तेरे पास पूरी लिस्ट है तो तू ही क्यों नहीं बन जाता? Because it's very easy to say, And the other drishtant I was giving that sometimes I go to this Hare Krishna temple on Thursday, and they have a lot of young people come there, and anybody can come. So there was one gentleman, when the question answer time came, he was like, the poor guy had lost his home, his job and everything, and he was really in distress. So he was just asking those monks that, hey, how do I deal with my life? How can now this mantra help me, or whatever, something like that. So, and everybody felt so bad for him. And he looked like it could be anybody's son, He did not look like a homeless person or anything like that, but he just felt on some hard times right now. So when we came home, my son, he was also attending with me, and he said, Mom, I think he can join the temple then. वो बेचारा सोच रहा था मैं like he has nobody. So I said, it's easy to say, those monks, it's not that easy, their life. They told us they have to wake up at 4:30, and they have to do this much sadhana. They have to study Bhagavad Gita every day. They have to study Bhagavatam. They have to do all the chores over there. They have to, after a while, they put them on the stage to speak. So you have to study thoroughly so you can talk to other people. And, whoever comes and whoever doubts, they sit with them and they serve food. It is a lot of hard work they do. So लोगों को लगता है वो, साधु बनना तो बहुत आसान है, just, भिक्षा मांगो, or no, it's not like that. So when we talk about razor's edge, there are people who do it, but they do it with so much dedication that they will do anything. It doesn't look hard to them because they want to do it. So that's what's the point about Shurastadhara. Okay? And the last 3 paragraph was the one that got a little bit cut off in the recording. So basically in those paragraphs there was that this one I already mentioned about Shurastadhara. And the second thing was, here Lord Death says Kavayo Vadanti, means kavis say that, and kavi ko saint and sages ko kavi kaha gaya hai, the one who see beyond themselves. So even Dharmaraj or Yamraj did not take the shreya on himself. मैं कह रहा हूं, नहीं कह रहे हैं. Wise people say, because it's like time tested gyan he's giving you, because that's why they call our shastras, it's called Sanatan Dharma, because it's an eternal knowledge, does not change. Time, frame, place, nothing can affect it. It's like a law of gravity. You cannot say that law of gravity is one way it functions in America and another way in India. No, forget about that. Whole universe, it is the same law. It's the same way. This is but it has been time tested by everybody, this Brahma Vidya. And Krishna Bhagwan does the same thing. In Bhagavad Gita, he says many times, he will say, the wise people say such, the Shastras say such. So we have to have a faith in the Shastras, and our teacher used to always say, you need a Shastra Praman. And that's why she always say, go back to the verses of what Krishna Bhagavan is saying. A lot of people in a lot of commentaries and all will take in some angle, they will go, which may not be true. And that's why you need Mahatmas that you trust, who have done the sadhana to make us understand. It is very important to be rooted. And that's why I had that comment last time. Let's stay in the boundaries of Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishad that we are doing, because then we'll be safe, rather than putting up, from somewhere I heard it and all that. You can share other people's commentaries, there's no harm in that, but stay in the boundaries of Bhagavad Gita. So that's why the wise people saying is very important. Here he is saying. And the last paragraph, it said that any culture which does not recognize the divinity in man, as though that whole culture is sleeping. जो बोला ना uttishta jagrita. So he's saying that if you don't recognize the divinity within humans and in this universe or cosmos, you are sleeping. If the materialist लोगों के लिए बोला गया है. And I think I mentioned that one of the students from Houston, she went to that discourse of becoming a acharya, and when she came back, we said, hey, tell us, what did you learn? And she said in one sentence, I learned that if you are born on this earth and if you miss God, you have missed everything. Your whole life is kind of wasted. I thought that was really a good one. So the sar of all these things. And then the next verse was the description given, of what this Brahman is. And we were doing that. And so, again, the recording got cut off a little bit. So I had explained most of it. And I'll just repeat a little bit to give an idea that will be good for us to move forward also. So the verse says, he who has realized that means that Atman. Remember in Vedanta, when you say that, Tat means that Atman or Brahman, which is without sound, without touch, without form, without decay, and also without taste, without smell, without beginning, without end. He's talking about the eternal nature. And the Mahat, beyond the Mahat, or the Hiranyagarbha, or the total intellect, totality. Beyond that also, eternal and unchanging, is freed from the jaws of birth and death. So I think I had explained everything and it is on the recording, but there was, when it got cut off, I was talking about beyond the total intellect. Mahat Param, that's the word. Mahata Param. Transcendental, in English language they call it. And then it also talked about Anadi and Anant. And then we were discussing that, in Vedanta they repeat a lot. Because किसी को eternal अच्छा लगता है word, किसी को anadi or ant, because it just closing all the different gaps that somebody you might have in your mind about what is eternity. And the way Shankaracharya ji and the way Tejomana ji and all explain that the reason they say anadi and anant, because they're talking about cause and effect. It is like for everything that we see there is a cause. But all it's saying is there is a final cause, just which is causeless cause. It is not cause of anything else. This concept is a little bit hard to understand, but he was just talking about जैसे कि एक milk को दही बन गया, right? तो milk नहीं रह गया, दही बन गया, okay? लेकिन दही milk से आया है, kind of. So अगर कोई बोलते all of us have come from God, who God has come from? Somebody can ask. So he's saying, no, God is Purna within himself. He doesn't have any other cause. That's how we have to remember it, You can't go beyond that. So that's why they're talking about this eternal Anadi Anant. And then the most important thing that Tejomayananji said, the moment we are talking about all this, we might think, Brahman somewhere else, Atma somewhere. No, it's talking about you. It's a subjective journey. You have that within you. This eternal factor is within you. And that's another thing that Priya had said when one time she was talking to us and she said, when I came to Chinmaya Mission, that's the only time I heard this. You are eternal. Means who tells you that? Imagine that, Who are you? You are that Brahman. You are eternal. You go to school, colleges, they never talk about this. It's always like, I can't do this, I can't do that. Here they're telling you are eternal. That's such a huge thing it was in her mind. Maybe that's what prompted her to pursue that path, So Tejomayananji actually joked. He said that you might have all different identities, like this ID, social service, social security card and a driver license, all these ID. No, those are all, not the real ID is that you are eternal and you are that Brahman. And he's saying that person who Nichaya is the word over here. Nichaya is the one, it's exactly the same thing we're learning in Bhagavad Gita. Not knowing but realizing that. Because you cannot, here they already denied all the different five senses. That you cannot grasp this with your five senses. That what kind of knowing they're talking about? They're talking about realization. That you realize that once that you realize that Brahman, that's when you are released from the jaws of death. Who's saying that? Lord of Death is saying it to you. Tum mere se chhoot jaoge. But he's saying don't take the literal meaning, because the body is like has to go, when we quit this earth, body is going to go back to its five elements. But it's that you are eternal. And then the way our Gurudev explained was the best way, I thought. That you don't get affected by the world of change. That's what it means. While we are living on this earth, because anything that changes is constantly dying and being born. And we discussed that even cells in our body, they die and they're born again. So the whole universe is in the flux, constant change. And the change is the one that gives us grief. Even when somebody dies, that's what happens, right? We are too attached to the form, and it is normal, because as humans, we are not there yet, so we will be attached. But this kind of knowledge will give you solace. It will get you out of your grief faster, and then you will go in the higher realm and understand it. So he's saying that the change that happens, you will not get affected, and that is like release from the jaws of death. You're not being affected by it, and that itself is called moksha, freedom, liberation. That's why the word use liberation. You're liberated from the agonies of this. And then Tejome Anandji actually brought this point by Shankaracharya ji, that he's saying that he used the word that you are free from avidya, काम and karma. Avidya means ignorance. And ignorance की वजह से कर्मों का चक्कर चालू होता है. Karma and karma fall, and then again, birth and death and all that. And then because it creates desire. When you have a gyan, that's what creates desire, and that chakkar, you break that cycle, of all three. You become free from it. And then you become this Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Satchidananda, he called it. Asango Aham Asmi means I am not attached to any of these things, and I am Shuddha and Buddha. So he's saying once you have that kind of knowledge, then you will not have any anxiety. And that's exactly same thing was there in your Shanti. When you don't have anxiety, that's the only time you'll have Shanti. Anxiety or Shanti don't go together. You will become free. So both Bhagavad Gita and this going side by side. Yeah. So we can read Swamiji's commentary now for this. Any question, comment? Anybody wants to add anything? Okay. Anil ji, you want to read?
Do you want to do the Sanskrit part?
I think I not do it last time? I did.
Okay, so I'll start on 15.
Yeah.
He who has realized that Atma, which is without sound, without touch, without form, without decay, and also without taste, without smell, without beginning, without end, beyond the Mahat, great, eternal and unchanging, is freed from the jaws of death. You must be remembering that the burning question which Nachiketa submitted to his master, Lord Death, was whether there was really an existence after death or not. Lord Death refuses to give him a direct reply in a parliamentary yes or no style, and thus skeptics and low atheists, not having the intellectual capacity of understanding the correct import of the very method of religion and religious teachings, quote such instances and cry that even the greatest of gurus have only succeeded in evading the question directly asked by the ignorant seekers. But scientifically speaking, the question, though seemingly sincere and correct, is a philosophical absurdity, and no true thinker can afford to answer such a wrong question in terms of a completely scientific language. If supposing Lord Death were to say that there is no life after death, he would certainly be telling a lie, since pure existence must eternally exist. If, on the other hand, Lord Death were to answer that there was existence after death, again, he would be false. He would be wrong scientifically, for in the realm of pure existence, there could be no trace of non-existence, and the idea of existence can maintain itself only with reference to its opposite, namely non-existence. It was under a similar awkward situation that Lord Buddha also had to keep mum when his disciples pointedly asked him if there was a God or not.
Okay, so this can be a little bit confusing. Just to simplify, firstly, I want to say in Vedanta, we have seen, whoever has been with the class a long time, a lot of contradictory statements are said to jog your mind, so that you see every aspect and then you come to that conclusion. And they purposely, because firstly, there is a saying that truth defined is truth defiled. You cannot define truth. But for our benefit, the saints and sages, use the language. It's not perfect, but by using both sides of it, contradiction and all that, it makes our mind think deeper. Basically, what he's talking about is the transcendental truth. You cannot divide it into two. कि भाई existence है या नहीं है. Pure existence means there is no non-existence in it, basically he's saying. You just look at it as something, जैसे बोलते हैं ना, gunatit means beyond the gunas. Or like, for example, he said, don't come under the sway of pair of opposites or likes and dislikes. And the other example I can give is like, there is a coin. I cannot say one side of the coin is the real coin. No, coin has both sides. I have to pick it up together. It's beyond the opposite. The coin is a whole, So think of it over here. Whenever they are talking about that Brahman, it is beyond pair of opposite. That's why, and even वैराग्य इसका meaning भी वही है. उसमें राग और द्वेष के ऊपर उठो. That's called vairagya. When you don't get attached to either one, in a sense कि मुझे ये चाहिए और मुझे वो नहीं चाहिए. You rise above that. So this is just because he's talking about that in that particular realm, you cannot talk in this opposite languages. That's why that was one reason that when Nachiketa asked the question, Yamraj did not answer yes or no immediately. Second thing was because it's a subtle subject, he was testing his student also. अगर मैं इसको कुछ बोलूँगा, ये कुछ गलत सदत लेके बैठेगा, then there will be a problem. So he is kind of testing him and then he's telling him. So there were several different reasons.
Though Lord Death is not directly answering his disciple, the answer is there in his words for the wise and the intelligent to grasp intuitively.
So that's what he's talking about, that an intelligent person will grasp this intuitively, and उसके लिए बहुत मननम भी करना पड़ता है. You have to reflect a lot, and if you have doubts, you have to clear them. All that comes under that.
The mantra under discussion explains the true nature of this self in its absolute state of perfection in terms of a language conceived for explaining things and for narrating experiences which are finite and limited. Our concept of the world and the things in it is, as we have already seen, only through the 5 small peepholes in our body constituted of our 5 sense organs. When we cognize or experience in our life, what we cognize or experience in our life is explained in terms of the sounds heard, the touches felt, the form seen, the taste enjoyed, or the smells experienced.
So you saw that because this is our concept of the world is just through this. And then somebody was, sometimes the saints and sages explain to us that because our life is experiences of this world, waking world, are dependent on these 5 senses, अगर sense में भी गड़बड़ होगा तो हमको ठीक से नहीं दिखेगा. Number 1, कितना limitation है. Sometimes if eyesight is not good, I might see a snake over a rope, because my eyesight is not that good. So what I'm saying is, and also it's a fact that the lot of animals have a better sense organs than us. पता नहीं कहाँ तक देखते हैं वो लोग. I've heard कि वो जो क्या बोलते हैं hawk वगैरह can see like miles away. We have stories, right? That he could see लंका में बैठी हुई सीता जी को उन्होंने देख लिया था. And those are all true, that they can see very far. Or the smell. अपन को लगता है अपना कुत्ते को देखो, उसको कुछ सुंगा दो तो he can detect the person like anywhere else. See what I'm saying? It is extremely limited. This is a scientific fact what they're talking about. And then he's talking about something beyond this. So we are so limited, and then we know that there are certain क्या बोलते हैं, spectrum of light that we cannot see with our eyes. That's why you have those machines, and machines may be limited also. And the sounds we don't hear. Animals can hear so many sounds that we cannot. So just because our five senses don't grasp, we cannot come to a conclusion the thing doesn't exist. This is 100% proof. Because sometimes we say, oh, how do I know something is beyond? Hey, this is a scientific fact that even physical world you are limited, and they're talking about something beyond. So that's why he's taking us that beyond this.
In short, the world constituted of matter is cognized, and the cognition is expressed in terms of the properties of matter. In her attempt to discuss and explain the abode of the spirit, Shruti had to point out to us the distant horizon of the world of matter and explain to us there in the yonder lies the field of pure consciousness, the kingdom of the spirit.
So he's taking you to the, बोलते ना कि जैसे कि ये सोलर सिस्टम के एंड तक ले गया तुमको. बियॉन्ड द बाउंड्रीज भी कुछ है. पहले हम लोग को ये जो धरती पे बैठे हैं उनको लगता था धरती ये सेंटर ऑफ द यूनिवर्स है. फिर पता चला बाद में, ओ माय गॉड, वी आर लाइक नॉट, फॉरगेट अबाउट सेंटर तो यहाँ सूर्य है, सूर्य भी सेंटर नहीं है. माय गॉड, देयर इज अ गैलेक्सी, फिर गैलेक्सी भी कुछ भी नहीं है, बिकॉज देयर आर मिलियंस ऑफ गैलेक्सी. इज पुशिंग यू to the boundaries of what we know. That's the idea over here. Yeah.
So is he saying that we should go beyond our senses?
Absolutely. In fact, that is the purpose in the meditation. तभी बोलते ना कि सब कुछ बंद करने का यही हुआ ना कि एक कमरे में बैठो ताकि we don't hear all these things, because there is existence beyond this also, they are saying. That's exactly right. Yes.
At the boundaries of the finite world of matter, all languages stop. Beyond them, only the language of the soul, silent meditation, is available for the spirit to converse with the spirit.
See, here is your answer, Anilji. Yeah.
अगर वो स्टेज आ जाए ना तो सब कुछ ही मिल गया.
हाँ, no. And वो उसी स्टेज का preparation हम लोग कर रहे हैं. That's exactly what he is telling you. That when you say I'm meditating, you are actually, meditation is that state, and we are just preparing to get to that stage. That's what it is. True. Mm-hmm.
Thus, in this mantra.
Oh, you 1 minute. You missed one sentence. You were in the half of. Naturally से शुरू कीजिए. In the above paragraph.
Yeah, at the boundaries, right?
Yeah.
At the boundaries of the finite world of matter, all languages stop. Beyond them, only the language of the soul, silent meditation, is available for the spirit to converse with the spirit. Naturally, Shruti finds no other convenient and scientific style of language to explain the inexplicable, except for employing a language of repeated negations.
So here, this is, आप लोगों ने सभी सुना होगा, they have a word called neti neti. This is, Brahman is neti neti, ये भी नहीं है, ये भी नहीं है, ये भी नहीं है, end में नहीं करते हुए जो बचता है, that is Brahman. That's another approach. So he's saying that they have to use the language of negation because they cannot tell you what it is so easily. So they're just telling you what it is not. This is a technique applied in all the different Vedas. It goes ashabda, asparsha, arupa, avyaya, arasam, agandham, because what it is not. Then once you grasp that, okay, ye bhi nahi hai, to fir kya hai, then they will talk about few things, what it is. That's how the approach they take.
Thus, in this mantra, we have the Atma explained to us in all its transcendental glory in the language of negation as a shabd, without sound,
asparsha,
without touch, arupa, without form, arasa, without taste, and agandha without smell. This is the only method available for the science of truth to explain itself in terms of a finite language.
Yeah, so we discussed this, why they are doing it, huh? आपका वो हो गया, म्यूट हो गया, अनिल जी.
Sorry.
Yeah.
In negating the properties of matter such as sound, touch, form, taste, and smell, the Shruti is indicating that our sense organs cannot perceive truth as such.
So that another proof is that through that you cannot comprehend. Yeah.
Actually, those are diversions.
That now you understand why they are diversion, and that's why when some people say, oh, क्या बोलते हैं, light दिखाई दी मुझे meditation में, ये हुआ वो हुआ, very good, maybe you are advancing, no problem in that, but that's not what the final goal is. Don't get stuck into that, because like you said, it becomes a diversion. Because कई लोगों को सिद्धि मिलने लग जाती है कुछ, but Vedanta doesn't want you to stop there at all. That's why I say it's a badha. And that's why most of these swamis, they don't talk about the miracles and all that happen. They don't want you to get into that arena, because it become a badha.
Nityam, eternal. Because truth is beyond the comprehension of the sense organs, it is eternal. For a pot or a table or a chair perceivable by the indriyas is finite. Thus, in negating for our sense organs any play in the word of truth, Shruti has already indicated its eternal nature too.
So because it is, it's all related, all these terms are all related. When something is beyond the five senses, so that's why it's eternal. So you can look at it whichever way it helps your mind, they have given you all different avenues to grasp it.
Ananda Yanantam.
Oh, it is, Anadi and Anantam.
Oh, Anadi and Anantam.
Yeah, yes. Without beginning and without end. Huh?
Without end, yeah. Mm-hmm. Not satisfied with the mere indication of the eternal nature of the soul, by the very language of negation employed, Shruti has already expressed in the first line of the mantra that truth is eternal, nityam. Mm-hmm. And in her anxiety to drive home the idea into the mind of the seekers, she almost commits a sin of repetition when she says that truth is without beginning and without end. When we digest this epithet in a true understanding of the science of Brahma Vidya, we shall find that without being a mere repetition, it is a well-chosen word to give us a clear idea of everything suggested by it.
So it sounds repetitious because eternal is the same like without beginning and without end, but it's just like I was saying, किसी के मन में कोई भी doubt आएगा ना, सबको plug कर देते हैं श्रुति, or the Vedas they gave. And then we saw that when we were doing Mandukya Upanishad, that how that Gaudpad ji gave so many arguments, किसी के मन में कोई भी संदेह होएगा ना, वो खत्म हो जाएगा. Like, he kind of surrounded this question from all sides. Nothing left to imagination, plug all that out. That's why they keep giving different words, Whatever connects with your mind, pick that. No problem.
That which has an end, meaning a perishable thing, perishes only to lose its present state of existence. And in thus perishing, it can only go back to the condition of its cause. If a clay pot perishes, it can only become mud, which is the cause from which it had risen. If a seed ends, it can only be to become a tree, which is its immediate cause, and it can decay to become the very elements from which it came. When we say that Mr. Gupta has died or is no more, we only mean that the elements which for a time constituted themselves into the form of Mr. Gupta are no longer keeping that form but have merged with the dust in the language of physics, nothing is lost when a candle burns.
So I think that there is another scientific fact, na, that the energy cannot be, the matter cannot be destroyed. Either it becomes energy or, it's a whole cycle continues. So it fits. Vedanta fits into science perfectly, So he's just saying that when you see the form change, it has only gone back to its cause. And to me, waves and ocean is a beautiful example. Wave is risen, and when wave is no more, it's gone back to its cause. It just merged back into the ocean. Doesn't mean it got destroyed. Only that form got destroyed, if you want to say so. It merged back. That's what basically he's saying.
Thus, all finite things end only to go back to the cause from which they had been born. In denying an end to truth, Shruti is indicating to us that truth is the cause of all causes and that it has no cause into which it can go back. This also means that truth as such is not the modification of anything. It is the ultimate. Hence, it is also beginningless.
So now the real meaning of beginningless has come, because it cannot go back to anything. It is there always, and from that only everything has come. For us, agar itna samajh liya, to it's pretty good. Yeah.
Dhruvam, immutable, changeless. From the above, it must be quite clear how pure consciousness, the self, in its transcendental nature, is ever changeless.
So I think the Tejomyanaji explained it very well when he said Dhruvam means it's, when we talk about something permanent, then it is still in the realm of time. Remember we discussed that a permanent job. There's nothing so, अगर हमारी जिंदगी permanent नहीं है तो फिर job कैसे permanent हो सकता है? So when they're talking about over here, Dhruvam is like timeless. Kalatit जिसको संस्कृत में बोलते हैं, beyond time. Not in the framework of time, because that's all relative,
If such be the plane of truth, beyond the cognition of the sense organs, the mind and the intellect, even if it be changeless, eternal, beyond the Hiranyagarbha, beginningless and endless, why should a seeker, after all, seek to establish his identity with it? Is it not more sure, certain, and profitable to reach the day-to-day marketplaces to play the sorrowful game of life, and there to strive and struggle, to sweat and toil, to sob and sigh, in between the flashes of laughter and mirth, smile and dance, sing and play?
So here I know it because he uses such long sentences, you sometimes get lost, especially people who don't have the book. All he's telling you that, okay, fine, there is this factor which is changeless, eternal, beyond here, Hiranyagarbha, beginningless, endless, and all that. Why should I get, मेरे को मिले फायदा क्या होगा? Because, the reason Swamiji has to do all this, because a lot of Nastic people had joined him, who were but they got fascinated by how he approached Vedanta and it found it so scientific. So he's saying that, मुझे क्या फायदा मिलेगा इस, okay, God है, वहाँ पर है, but मेरे को क्या मिलेगा? So this verse is telling you क्या मिलेगा तुमको, if you realize that.
Shruti is here explaining why man should seek and ultimately fulfill himself in establishing his true identity with his supreme state of perfection. He who has known the state of eternal bliss is freed from the jaws of death. There is no doubt indeed that no other fear in life is so common to us as the dread of death. Hence the word death is to be understood not in its limited aspect of men and beings breathing their last, leaving their forms on the surface of the globe to perish and decay. Death is used here in its widest scope, bringing within its embrace all the finiteness in the world of matter.
So we discussed that, right? That world of change, you when you say freed from the jaws of death, that's what it means. That you are free from these clutches of this change that prosecute our mind constantly, and that उसमें सब कुछ आ जाता है. उसमें वो birth and death of the body भी आ जाती है, and the other things, changes that happen in our life that we cannot handle, वो सब उसमें आ जाता है कि अगर by realizing and establishing in it. So that's another very important thing, because right now what is with us, we in this particular class now, everybody has that faith and shraddha that that exists, Brahman exists, but we are not established yet. Once you get established, then you become the sthita prajna, what he talked about in chapter 2, lakshan of sthita prajna, because those people are completely established. हमको अभी भी हम लोग waver करते हैं, और we have the doubt and all that. So once you establish in that truth, that's when you go clutches of death से दूर हो जाते हो तुम.
And also you become, basically another way to say is, you totally become fearless.
Yes,
no fear.
Absolutely. And they say no कि जो fear of death है ना, वही manifest होता है दूसरे. That is the biggest fear.
Yeah.
The other little ones are related to that one. अगर वही चला गया, fear of death, because I'm not the body, because everybody knows the story of this Bhagavatam, right? How the whole thing started was he was grandson of Arjun, Parikshit, Raja Parikshit. And when he found out that he was going to die in 7 days because he had the curse, so he started studying, hey, what is this Atma and Brahma Gyan unko chahiye tha. So isliye Bhagavad boli gayi unko. All the Rishi Munis told them about that. And it seems at the end of the 7 days, he was so well established in the truth that for him, that snake coming and biting him was just a formality. Usko koi farak nahi pada. Fearless ho gaya ekdam wo. So, and then we have studied that, I think in the earlier chapter, that they said that before you quit this body, tab tak bhi agar tumko ye gyan mil jaye na, you will be free. So it's like we have to strive. That's why it is so important to keep studying this, because they're telling you the benefit that you're going to get. Amazing.
And Sister Shivani said one thing. She said, because we don't know when our life will end, so it's like a journey. You should be ready for the next journey. So keep the suitcase ready.
Yes.
So you should know what you want to carry with you in the suitcase,
Beautiful analogy, yes. And even Tejo Anandji said the same thing. He said, when we go on a vacation, we always have a return ticket back, right? But when we come in this world, nobody thinking about a return ticket.
They don't want it.
I know, but sabko truth malum hai. And exactly like you said, we don't know when we are going to go and what. And that's why, like they say ki purane zamane mein, they used to have the Gurukul system. So they taught this Vidya from the very childhood. Abhi to matlab, I tell you, things are changing in India. I was so amazed because this morning, or yesterday morning, when I'm doing my yoga, I try to listen to, the YouTube, because it gives you suggestions. So different things come. In University of Delhi, they got this, anybody knows who Mr. M is? His name is Mr. M, okay? Ya to Mr. M, ya something M. He goes by just M. And he's one of the yogis who did the sadhana and everybody knows about Babaji, right? That autobiography of Yogi mein mention hai, wo Babaji, who's supposed to be thousands of years old, who guides all these saints and sages, huh? If you read autobiography of Yogi, you will know what I'm talking about. They hired him, or they brought him in literally as a professor to teach the Vedanta. And I listened to his first lecture. And these are IIT students. They have IIT Delhi now. They joined his class to learn Vedanta. I said, wow, after finally some change is happening. And, the Vedanta, he was talking about, totally pure scientific perspective. Don't even say religion or God, and he himself was born in a Muslim family. But he got initiated by Babaji, and he has a lot of knowledge and all that. And I listened to his first lecture, and the second one, I'll share that one, whoever is interested. That course is going on, or maybe it is finished, I'm not sure. But in universities now they are picking up this, because they're realizing the value in it. It's nothing to do with religion as such. This is spiritual. This is, the world of spirit, you can call it, or something which is there And his approach was very, very scientific for those students. He has to keep it that way. Excellent the way he presented the whole thing.
Thus, the mantra explains to the deluded man that he who can seek constantly and ultimately succeed in establishing his identity with his state of perfection, to him there is no more a world of finite sense impulses to wreak his perfect joys by bringing storming sorrows and tumultuous despairs into his bosom.
So, these are the things that we get afflicted by, and he's just saying that how he will go beyond all this.
Niksha.
Nichaya, actually.
Nischaya.
It's a very different word that we have not heard. Nichaya, actually. Nichaya, iska meaning diya hua hai, having known, means not knowing through the senses, but realizing it. That's what that word means. Nichaya.
This does not mean to know truth. In this sense, we know a table or a chair. When the mantra has, in its very first line, negated the sense organs any play in word of truth, it has negated, in effect, the play of the mind and the intellect also. Here the term having known